Know how to create instances now, right? EC2 instances. We created a Linux instance, right? And we also understood how actually we can connect to those instances using two different ways, right? One is by using SSH client, which typically comes by default with Linux, and also how to connect using Windows by using PuTTY, right? Fine. So now if you see, we are planning to start with certification preparation. So for that, we need to understand that when a diagram is drawn, right? When you are getting an architectural diagram which actually depicts different Amazon elements, how actually you will understand that particular diagram, right? Now, for example, UML diagrams are there. Those UML diagrams have predefined, notations for coming up with classes or collaborations and all, right? Now, similarly, in Amazon also, when you build an architectural diagram, you need to understand that what is meaning of what element and how actually you will depict, because Amazon comes with huge number of services, right? So this particular part of the session will help you to understand how actually an Amazon architectural diagram can be made and can be also depicted, right? Because going forward, we are going to build up entire architecture, right? So that you can see and understand when we take up the cases that how actually you will build it. So that's what is the objective of this particular session. So let's start now. And this is one of the requirements of certifications as well, because you must be capable, or you need to ensure that you are capable of identifying architectural elements in an architectural diagram, right? Fine. So we'll start now. These are some of the icons which are there, predefined, right? When you draw, you need to ensure that you are using this. Fine. So if you see, always use icon labels. So labeling is mandatory. You have to go and you have to label your icon. Creating diagram. If you see, this is what is one of the sample diagram where this represents S2 and all, right? Ensure that appropriate white spaces must be there, and all icons in your architectural diagram must be labeled. Whenever you have to depict some non-AWS technology, you can go and you can specify it with this gray color, and don't forget to label this also. So these are some of the simple icons. Along with icons, we will go and we will look at those services also. Now this is what is broad category of icons. Amazon EC2, where it shows you multiple instances. So EC2 is typically used for helping you in creating instances. This is the compute part, right? Then you have instance, and you have instances, right? So wherever you want to show multiple instances in architectural diagram, you will be using this. Then you have AMI. That means it's an image. Amazon, you can say it's an image which is pre-populated with some PaaS, that is platform as service. So for example, if I want to build my own image, what I can do is I can create an image in which I have my software already loaded, right? So that if someone wants to create an instance and if they select my AMI, they will get a machine, an instance with already installed software, right? DB on instance. So this particular thing tells that you have database present on this instance. Then you have instance with CloudWatch, right? CloudWatch is used for monitoring when you want to monitor. And Elastic IP. I told you in previous session what is use of Elastic IP. Elastic IP is used in order to provide a static IP to your instance, right? Then when you go with C3, it is optimized instance. Then Amazon Lambda, which is one of the component. These are the symbols which are used for private cloud. Amazon VPC, router, right? Internet gateway, customer gateway, virtual private gateway, VPN connections, VPC peering, when you connect multiple, virtual private clouds, right? So you need to have put your own effort and time in order to actually keep all these images in your mind, because when you get questions from here, you should be able to, do it. You should be able to complete it. That is what is level of efficiency that we expect from you, right? Fine. So we'll move to this now. Now comes Amazon Route 53. So typically when we talk about IPs of your instances in Amazon, right, you'll find that it provides you something similar to AWS.Amazon, AWS. It's a long IP. If you want to specify your own domain, right, which you have registered, you can go and you can use Amazon Route 53. Right? It is used in order to help you in not only registering a domain, but also, providing IP to your boxes, which is part of your domain. This is what is routing table. This is elastic load balancing. And then you have AWS Direct Connect. Right? I do understand that it is difficult to remember so many icons, but you have to go and you have to keep this in mind if you're planning for certification. Auto scaling can be represented using this. And then you have elastic network instance, which you can specify using this particular icon. Right? So these are different icons which are there. Now comes storage and content delivery. You have Amazon S3, bucket with objects, right? An object. Now, Amazon S3 represents simple storage, right? You'll be creating bucket and you will put objects in the bucket, right? Then you have Amazon Elastic Block Store, EBS. This is how actually you will define snapshot, volume. And then you have storage gateway. So wherever you see these symbols, right, you can make out that these are different storage gateways that you have. And then you have AWS import and export. Right? So keep this in mind, because these are two important elements, right? One is storage, compute and networking, and second one is a storage, right? So any architecture that you build using Amazon will definitely have some of the storage elements and some of the compute elements, right? So this is how actually you will be able to depict. I'm not asking you to remember all immediately, but yes, I expect you that by next session when you come, you should have good idea about these symbols which are there, right? Then comes Amazon Glacier, which is used for archiving. So you archive vault, which actually stores secure data. Then CloudFront, streaming distribution, edge location, download distribution. So these are different symbols which are there, which I want you to actually keep in your mind. Apart from S3, EBS, your Amazon has databases of its own as well. So if you want to represent databases, you have a choice. For DynamoDB, which is NoSQL, this is actually NoSQL from Amazon. Cassandra is actually based on Amazon DynamoDB. Then you have Amazon relational databases. Right? This is SQL databases. Amazon RDS, then how to represent RDS instance, right? Multi-AZ instance, replicas, MySQL DB, Oracle DB, MS SQL. Right? So all these icons are there which you can use actually in order to go and represent your architectural diagram. Right? So we'll be taking up a small case also in order to build. Fine. So Amazon relational databases, whatever are there, you have different way of representing it. Right? So let's go and see some of them before we share this document with you and expect you to go and have it. Now, this is what is very important. It's okay, fine. We know now network element, storage element, RDBMS, right? Important part of any architecture is to do demarcation where what component will be there, right? So if you see, you have availability zone, you have region, you have security group, you have auto scaling group, right? You have elastic bean beanstalk, you have EC2 instance content, you have VPC subnet, and you have server content. So these are various ways in which actually you can specify group, right? Now, for example, if I want to go and have an architecture which we will be using today. If you see this, VPC, AWS, and corporate data center, right? And this is what is one of the example. So let's try out elastic load balancing. This is what is your EC2 instance. If you see, you have a group here, right? And this represents that this EC2 contains a web application server, right? Then you have different type of storage. You have Amazon S3 bucket, right? You have CloudFront distribution to distribute this particular, to make the data available. Then you have Amazon EBS snapshot. You have data volume here which you have created as part of auto scaling group. And this is what is security group to which this EC2 instance need to confirm. And all this is there in a single availability zone. So by looking at this particular diagram, you should have capability of going and setting up your architecture accordingly. Okay, is this clear? Ayush, is that clear? Nakul, so what is your task? In next session, we are going to come up with certain, architectural exercises where I will write what is the need and you have to draw it. Is that fine? So once I share this and discuss the use case, you should have capability of drawing it, and also you should have capability of looking at this architectural diagram and doing the architecture setup, right? Once you do that architecture setup, I'm sure that you will have lots of understanding that how actually an Amazon architecture is built. Is that clear? Matthew, is that clear? Alex? Okay, fine. I'm not getting response from everyone. I think some of them are not on audio still.
Yeah, are these icons available in Visio?
Yeah. Did you ask any question, Ayush?
Yeah, I'm saying that whether these icons are available in Visio or not, because sometimes you have to draw your
No,
diagram.
I will be giving you these icons here. You can actually make them as metaphors. You see, all are copy paste kind of things. So you have to build your own. Okay.
Okay, you can do that on Visio, right?
Yeah, you can do that in Visio. You can create your own metaphors there. Only thing is you need to have these icons before you go and you work with them. Right. Not only that, you can use any architectural editor.
Okay.
Okay, fine. So this is how actually it'll work. In last session, we spoke about how we can go and we can build instances, right? In this session, we are going to talk about how actually we can, from scratch, how actually we can set up auto scaling group, right? Because kind of architecture that we are going to do in next session will include, auto scaling also, right? So let's go and start probably with that. So I'll try to first go and launch my AWS. You have already created some of the instances. right? I'll just go here, and objective now is to understand auto scaling. Now, what do you mean by auto scaling? What do you mean by auto scaling? Auto scaling is capability that you have added to your architecture to decide when to grow, right? When actually you are out of resources, fine, and what is the matrix with which you have to grow. Now, for example, if CPU usage has reached to 90%, you can set up your auto scaling capability as per your metrics. But yes, you need to have something which keeps a watch on current usage of your resources, right? Then only you will be able to set up auto scaling. So let's go here and discuss what auto scaling is, right? Now, in order to set up auto scaling so that your architecture is intelligent enough to go and collect information about your existing usage and then decide, right? You need to go and you need to have a configuration. You need to define the configuration. You have to specify that I want auto scaling, right? So you have to go and you have to define a launch configuration which specifies the type of EC2 instance that you are going to create must have auto scaling capability. This can be actually done by including information like Amazon machine image ID, which can be used for launching EC2 instance. You can specify instance type, key pair, and rest of the things, right? So basically what you have to do, you have to go and you have to create a launch configuration.
Tiny moment of anticipation before the next song, but it's all the time,
right? And for this, what you need to do is you need to go and you need to open Amazon EC2 console, right? Now, if you see in the navigation panel, you will have somewhere auto scaling. Are you able to see? So I'll go and I'll open EC2 console. And in EC2 console, if you go here, you'll find somewhere auto scaling group. You're getting right? Auto scaling, you have two options. One is launch configuration and second one is auto scaling group. So let's go and first create launch configuration here. So I'm just going and clicking here in launch configuration. Right? And this particular wizard, if you see, helps you to go and create an auto scaling configuration. Right? I'll go and I'll create here, create auto scaling group. And clicking on that, if you see, it gives you an option that first you have to define a template that your auto scaling group will use to launch instances, right? Because you have to define that when actually auto scaling need to be applied, right? So you are creating something called as auto scaling group. Right? So you'll just go and click on create launch configuration. Now once you do that, it gives you various options to select from your instance, right? So you can select a region also. Now for example, I can go and I can select a region from here. These are the different regions, right? So if you want resources to be tied up, right, you can go and you can select from here what instance you want to be part of your auto scaling group, right? So first objective is to select an AMI. Now, for example, I can go and I can select an AMI from here as well, from AWS Marketplace, right? Or we can go with community also. So from here you can select whatever AMI you want, whatever image you want, right? Now, for example, you can select Amazon Linux AMI also. Like I'll just go and write here Amazon Linux, and it gives you a list, right? So you can select any one of them. Let me select one feasible one. Let me select Amazon Linux. And here we are getting Amazon Linux AMI x64. Right now, it depends. It depends on your need. It depends on your requirement. Right? You can select a hardware. For example, let me select T2 small, which indicates that you'll be charged, but usage of memory is not too much, so charges will be less. So you select the instance, click on configure details. Right? Now you need to understand one more thing, that when you are going to this step, just give a name to it. I'll write here test systems. Right? And then I'll go and I'll click on add storage. Before you go there, let's go here to advanced. In advanced, you will see kernel ID, RAM, usage, IP address. This is important one, right? Now this IP address is important because if you want to connect to an instance which is already there in your VPC, you must select an option. That option is assign a public IP. If you see here, assign a public IP address to every instance. You can select this. By default, it will assign a public IP to an instance which is launched in the default VPC and subnet. So this is what is default, right? Assign a public IP address to every instance. This also can be selected if you are sure that you can go and you can take elastic IP and you can assign it, right? So let's go with the option called as assign a public IP to every instance, right? Next is skip to review. Now you came here where you have selected type of instance is T2 small, right? Memory is 2 GB, type of storage is EBS, network is low to moderate. Now on this particular page, if you see, you have security group, you have storage, right? And you have launch configuration details. Some important information that you need to always keep in mind: tenancy is shared tenancy. It means this is not dedicated hardware for you. When you are creating instance, you can go and you can specify that I want dedicated hardware for this, right? Then you have storage here, where you can specify what type of storage you want. By default, it provides you root storage, and size will be 8 GB. If you want to edit storage, you can go and you can edit it, and you can specify parameters of your type. You can select type of storage also from here, right? So not required. We'll just go here and I'll come to security group, which is very important, right? Now in security group, if you see, it has created a security group itself, and it has named it as auto scaling security group 1, right? Now in this case, your security group actually has opened the port only for one, and that is 22. Now what you have to do is you have to just go and create the launch configuration. But please remember, as of now, you have only one port open and that port is 22, right? You can go and you can change the rules, like edit, and you can change the rules here. You can add more rules, whatever you want. Now, for example, let me open it for all traffic from anywhere, right? And then I can go back to the review page. So now if you see, your security group has changed rule. You can communicate with this instance not only at 22 port but also at any port and from anywhere, right? If you want to restrict that, no, I want to have access to this machine only from a particular IP, you can go and you can change it. You can go and specify your IP here, right? So now only I can communicate to all traffic because my IP is this, and I have specified this and rule that if request is coming from this IP, allow entry in the particular box, right? So as of now, let me open it for everyone or from anywhere. I'll go to review, and now we are at one of the last steps, create launch configuration. I'll just go and click on this. Now you can go ahead with existing key, or you can create a new key pair that we have seen, right? Now one thing you need to understand that you won't connect to your instance as part of this activity. So you can select proceed without even key pair also. But if you intend to connect, you can go and you can have the key. So since I already have this, say Hadoop install key, I can go and I can create launch configuration. So what we have done here, we have created the auto scaling group, right? And once you have done this, you'll come to second step where you will create an auto scaling group. Now please understand that auto scaling groups are the core of auto scaling services. Without auto scaling group, it is difficult or rather impossible to specify the scaling up matrix. You can give a group name to it. Let me give group name as retail. I'm just giving a name to it, retail. Right? Now you can create an auto scaling group by specifying the launch configuration that we have already used. You can specify the group size. Group size is number of instances the group should have at any time, and with what capacity, right? So when we say group size, this is what is the minimum number of instances which this group must maintain at all times, right? So you can specify 1, 2, whatever you want. Right? You can give group name. You can specify the size. If you want to add instances with factor of 2, let me go and keep the default. Right? Since we are using micro, so we are in VPC network. Otherwise, you can go with classic also, that's fine. So this is what is there. Now each instance in this auto scaling group will be assigned a public IP, right? Because we have selected that option. So I'll go and I will now click on configure scaling policies. I'll just go here and take one IP, any one of them. Let me take this. And now I'll go here and click on this. Now here you are creating policy. You can add whatever policy you want to adjust the size, right? And for this you need to internally use Amazon CloudWatch alarm. Like when actually scaling up need to start. You have to specify that. So what I am doing is I am selecting here, keep this group at its initial size. Now if you select this, here you can go and specify that what action you want to take. Name is increase group size, execution policy. You see, as of now there is no alarm set. You can go and you can set the alarm, and that alarm contains what? Notification. You can create a topic, and whenever maximum usage is crossing, you say 70% or 80%, you want to take some action, right? So you can go and you can specify these alarms. You can create these alarms depending on your need of scaling up or scaling down, right? Don't worry, all this is there with case study also. I'm just trying to, help you in understanding what actually auto scaling group is, right? And then you can take action. After setting up your alarm, you can go and you can take action. Now, for example, here I can go and add more instances. How many instances you want to add? That also you can go and specify, right? So this is how actually you can go and you can set up the policies, right? I'll go and I'll click on configure notification. So the minute you do this, you see it says a step policy must be associated with an alarm. I'll go to review. And I'll select this, keep this group at its initial state, because I like to set up this alarms later. Next is configure notifications. So if you want to add certain notifications, you can go and you can add it here, right? Send notification to, with email IDs, whenever instance is launched. So if you want to set notification that okay, someone has already started your image, right, your instance, you can go and you can send a mail to a mail ID, right? You can give a topic to it. So you'll be notified whenever an instance is launched, terminated, right? Or if some problem is there in launching, if some problem is there in notification, terminating, you'll receive a mail, right? You can go and you can add multiple notifications. Let me go and click on this now. Now you can give a key to it, right? Because your group has to be identified, and it is identified by specifying key value pair. So I'll just go and give a key to it. Let me say my scaling group, and I can specify value. Click on review. Once you click on review, you will get complete details about your auto scaling group, right? This is what is group name, this is what is group size, minimum group size, maximum group size, right? Scaling policies, we have not set anything as of now, we have kept default. Then you have notifications. In case of any problem or any change in state of your instance, a mail will come to this particular mail ID. You can have multiple recipients also. And this is what is the tag. And last step is you can go and you can create. Click on create auto scaling group, and that's what we are going to do. So you have created a group now, and that particular group will have what? Auto scaling capabilities, right? So in short, if I ask you to create an auto scaling group and share you the steps, which I will do, you'll be able to do that, right? What is objective of auto scaling group? Auto scaling group is a configurable element in Amazon that helps you to define scaling policies, right? on the instances which you will make part of this particular group. Is that clear, Nakul? Okay, fine. So we have created auto scaling group. I'll just go and view the creation log. So you see, this is important because it created auto scaling group. Name of the group is retail. It retrieved auto scaling group details, creating notifications that you have, specified there. So everything is created, right? You can go and you can click on view your auto scaling group. And now you have this auto scaling group here, right? So this is how actually you will go and you will create your auto scaling group. Right? And here, if you see details, I'll just show you. This is details, activity history, scaling policy, and now instances. Right? You have one instance which is in service. State is healthy. Notifications are already set. And now from here you can go and you can control your auto scaling group. Right? So any confusion here? These are the different states. As of now, it is successful.
Niranjan, I have a question, like this scaling. Suppose I have a region-based application, right? My application is same, but my database can have like India, US, and some other countries have different type of information, right? Like for example, the USPS we have information based on different data collection centers, right? So this is so I have a basically different requirement for database. I may have multiple instance of database, but my app is simple. I mean, there's no problem in the app. I can just have a few clusters, and so it's like a kind of a heterogeneous thing. But with the scaling, it will scale everything or just part of your, like your database group is different, and your
you have to have different groups, right? And that's the reason I told you that you need to identify the architecture properly. Now, for example, if you find that problem is coming in, database server management, right? So probably you can create an auto scaling group which will have your databases are installed, right? So you can go and you can define auto scaling for groups for different architectural elements. So identify where actually you need, what is actually getting terminated or a CPU usage is crossing frequently. Now, for example, I'll go to this instance. I have ID, right? I'll just go and click on the instance ID. Now, this takes me to the instance which we have seen earlier also. Now, this is what is the instance, right? Now, what I can do is I can go to action and I can terminate. I'll go to instance state and I'll terminate. I'll go and I'll say yes, terminate. So I terminated this instance. Now what happens once this instance is terminated? If you go to your auto scaling group, you'll find that it creates an instance, right? It just provides a new instance because this instance is terminated. right? It takes some 5 minutes to provision, right? So default cooldown time for auto scaling group is 300 seconds, which is 5 minutes. So it takes 5 minutes until you see the scaling activity. Right, so let it do. I'll just go to auto scaling group. And I'll go to instances here. Right, now you see it takes 5 minutes for a new instance to come up. You can go and you can refine your policy and you can do that, and you'll get here status also. It takes some 5 minutes before it scales it up. You see it is in service, right? So once cooldown time of 5 minutes is done, you will find that there is a scaling activity which is going on, right? And when you will see that scaling activity starts, right, you'll find an entry of termination of the first instance, and a new instance actually will get launched, right? So it takes 5 minutes for this to happen. Right, so it's terminated. After 5 minutes, once we will come back, you will find a new instance actually will be launched. So if you see desired is 1, minimum is 1, max is 1. So at any point of time, it will always ensure that one instance is available, right? And that provisioning will start. Now you see, it's changing to healthy state, right? And all this happens internally, so you need not worry. You need to just understand what should be the scaling policy. And I use app server and database scaling is different as compared to your box scaling. Here we are talking about making, instance available, that is hardware available. That's what is the objective. Right, so it takes some time. I'll go and click here. You see, immediately instance ID is different and it is in running state. So did you understood that how actually your Amazon is helping you to auto scale? Is that clear? So if you see, this was the first one which was created, which we created, and we terminated it. But by the minute, by the time we terminated it, since you have created an auto scaling group, it automatically went and created an instance for you. So at any point of time, you will not run out of your instance. One will always be there, and that's what is objective of auto scaling group. Nakul, Jay, Ayush, Matthew, are you clear with auto scaling group now? Let me go and check my mails.
One question again, sorry about that. So the thing is that in scaling, the instance will not be blank, right? It will have some kind of app server or some database.
So that's what AMI will be there, right? You will have app server and you will have deployments done, and you will specify. Now, for example, you see I got the notification. I have to confirm subscription, and after I confirm subscription from my mail box, I will be notified whenever there will be. So it all depends how actually you are setting up the AMI, right? So you will build your own AMI, and then you will make those AMIs which contains your app server, applications deployed on app server as part of your auto scaling group. Is that clear, Ayush? So that is not responsibility of compute. Yeah.
all app server and everything basically scaled it to next.
Yes.
To one more instance if I need it.
Yes.
Example, it's not only in case of termination, right? Like the application is running fine, but may just slow down.
You can go and set up your scaling policies. As of now, we have not specified. You see, you can go and you can set up scaling policies. For that, you can go and you can create a new alarm, right? And you can set notification, create a topic, give a name. For example, I'm giving a name as my topic 2, right? And you can specify here some mail ID. Right, and you can specify here average CPU utilization, I'll say 50% for at least one period of 5 minutes. So when this situation will be there for 5 minutes, it will automatically go and it will scale. So now if you see, you have added a scaling policy, right? And you can add the action, what you want, add one instance. But since in our auto scaling group, we have one max and one mean, we have to go and we have to change that. Okay, is that clear? Fine. So now you have one auto scaling policy. So you can specify your policies, right? So whenever alarm threshold is CPU utilization is more than 50 for 300 seconds for the metric dimension, auto scaling group name is retail. And what action? Add one instance. Is that clear, Jay, Matthew? So I feel that now you understand what is objective of auto scaling group. It's clear, right?
Yes, Niranjan.
Okay, fine. So you see what all log entries, launching a new and then it terminated. And then since this was terminated, it immediately created a new instance and it made it available to us. And this instance will be replica of this. Okay. Whatever AMI you have selected here for the first time, that same AMI will be launched. Okay. Fine. So now there are certain questions actually which becomes very important when we talk about auto scaling. For example, how to maintain a fixed number of EC2 instances? How to go with manual scaling? How to specify dynamic scaling, right? Getting notifications. So we have seen here notifications. Now we have configured this to send notification to my mail ID. You can go to instance and you can see what all are the life cycle. You see, these are the life cycles. So if you have multiple instances here, you can go and you can filter, right? So these are different things that you have to actually understand. Please understand, you will get questions from auto scaling group as well, right? So once you have created your auto scaling group, your auto scaling group starts by launching minimum number of instances that you have specified, right? Now, it is critical that sometimes it is required that you should always have that same number of instances. So auto scaling actually internally does what? It does a periodic health check on running instances. And whenever it finds that an instance is unhealthy, it will terminate that instance and it will launch a new instance, right? So it is very important that all instances in your auto scaling group are in healthy state, right? And your auto scaling group will assume that all the instances are in healthy state until and unless there is a notification sent by someone which takes it to unhealthy state. And from where these notifications will come? This will come from load balancing parameters, right? Or it will come from your customized health check that you keep on doing, right? So you can go and you can actually specify policy for that, and that's what is objective of this policy, right? To have better control over scaling up and scaling down of the server, right? So now what you can do, you can create instances, you can make instances, part of some auto scaling group. You can have multiple auto scaling groups, and actually you can specify relation among those auto scaling groups as well, right? So I'll just go auto scaling groups, and what I want to do here is I'll select this, go to actions, let me go and delete it, right? So policy is deleted. I'll come here, and these are the attributes which actually you want to see. So you can go and you can put a filter on these. So is that clear? What all actions you can take here? After creating, I will delete it, otherwise I'll be charged, So now it is deleting retail. And if you see, the minute it goes, it changes it to 0, 0, 0. So this is how actually you will come up with auto scaling group of your own, right? So now if you are getting questions, and if I ask you, do you know how to create auto scaling group? You'll be able to answer me, right? We have seen this. If I ask you, identify auto scaling configuration for given scenarios, you'll be able to do that. Will you be able to identify where actually auto scaling group fits? Because certifications, when it comes, these kind of questions will be there, and this is what is one of the important activities also as an cloud architect. You'll be able to do, right? Akul? Okay, great. Now if I ask you set notifications to inform admin whenever there is change in state, you'll be able to do this, right? Or setting up custom notifications. This also can be done. Right? Identify factor of scaling. I mean to say whether you want to add one server, two server instances, three instances, right? So you can go and you can set up scaling factor also, that okay, fine, when existing servers are not able to manage, let us go and add three more servers, right? So all this can be done by setting up auto scaling group, right? So this was the session for today. I feel that As I told you that I want you to be capable of building architectural diagrams using standard notations of Amazon, and I expect that still, right? And also today we saw how to work with auto scaling groups in Amazon AWS, right? So that you can always go and have a policy defined of either adding more servers, right, whenever there is problem in other server, or adding more compute and storage capabilities to your existing infrastructure.